equality to certain communities. And they really ended up filibustering. And you're here to say that, well, you can't filibuster in this, the House or in the legislature. But the reality is you can talk bills to death. And that's the key thing. And so unfortunately, it was the last few days of the session, and it was a 3-4 hour talk. And so people said, well, it died. I really said that's when the bill was born, because it really gained a lot of momentum. And so we took this year off because we really wanted to spend a lot of time base building. Plus, it's a short session. There's the budget issues. There's a lot of other issues out there. And next year, we're very confident we will pass this bill.
Yeah, I think one of the things you said is very pertinent, that the community society at large, there has to be a majority of people that believe this is wrong in order to garner the support. Right. And I think while you said the 20% that works against it, I think that's where a lot of people probably do miss sort of the point that in your own community, in your New London, Waterford, whatever your local community is. We see a lot of support among friends and families, and occasionally something that's not so supportive. But in large part, friends and families and even employers nowadays have been supportive. So you do sort of get this skewed view that, well, where's all this opposition coming from? And it's sort of, I think, the volume of the voice, not the quantity of voices.
It is. And I think a key thing is also just having advocates. The important thing is having people within the legislature speak up for us. We're fortunate to have strong advocates, and I think that's a key thing. And we always know there's how many bills that come up in the legislature.
Oh, yeah.
And the key thing is only a small percentage of them really get out of any committee. And so it does take a lot of work to really sort of get the champions to work on that and the thing.
Yeah, and we've gotten out of committee with this several times now. It's got a lot of positive motion.
It did. Family Institute of Connecticut said, well, they stopped it.
Yeah.
Last year. They didn't stop anything. It was just a session. It was just a short session, and time was just too short. And we felt, why bother to try to get it out of the committee when we still, would have to go through a House and a Senate.
Yeah. And you've got politicians that want to work to help pass this, who, if you do press them to raise it, are going to start spending political capital on something that we just don't have the organizing at the moment.
Right. And frankly, I think the time that we've taken, as Jeremy was saying, the years that the bill has not passed have been years that we've spent doing so much great education. And I see the difference between the last time I worked with the coalition, which was in 2008, and going out and talking to folks and doing some workshops and doing some information sessions, and the difference between people in communities talking about gender identity and expression then and talking about it now.
Yeah.
And I really think that has everything to do with Jerry Marie and trans advocacy and the Transgender Lives Conference and what CT Equality, which used to be known as the Connecticut Anti-Discrimination Coalition, has been doing around this bill. And it's something that, I was in an interview the other day, and the prospective candidate mentioned this bill, mentioned having heard about it in years past, and that felt actually a little new, which is great. So, the silver lining of the bill not passing is that we get to build power and we get to build people wanting to talk about it.
Yeah, and we've found even on this show, when you do start talking about the need for it, and the realization that, an apartment complex owner can kick you out if they don't like you being trans.
Yeah.
People go, well, no, they can't do that. Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
You can get fired with little to no recourse.
And just real quick, the statistics are, basically there's about 60% unemployment in the trans community. And that's well known. And we know that that's a serious issue. And some folks are just afraid to even look anymore. They just give up.
Yeah.
But discrimination is rampant. And discrimination is rampant in many communities. And this
Sure.
is why we have to work as communities together.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
No discrimination is good.
Right.
And certainly, I would be very happy to testify this year.
Excellent.
All right.
Good.
You need that, and
we
probably
do.
other members of our
Excellent.
organization.
That sounds great.
As well.
Yeah.
Great.
We'd love it.
That'd be wonderful.
She actually is a victim of some of that,
Really?
Yeah.
having
Okay.
lost her job.
We actually have a phone call,
Cool.
which I would like to take if we can. Good evening, NLC Trans. You're on the air.
Hi, ladies. It's Tambria.
Hi,
Hi,
Tambria.
Tambria.
Hi. You guys are having a great show, and I just wanted to thank everyone's efforts, because I'm sure, besides Connecticut, you've had some influence over Foxwoods. And I noticed that they're now partnering with the Connecticut Alliance for Business Opportunities,
Yep.
and they have added that specific language to their employment policies of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. And I just encourage you to keep trying in our own state and use them as an example. If a nation, that's been under discrimination since the 17th century can do it, why can't we?
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I jump in real
Sure.
quick? That's a great point. In talking about how things have changed just in the last couple of years, in kind of going through the materials that the coalition has used and updating them, the numbers that I'm changing on what companies in Connecticut, for example, have the phrase gender identity or expression in their non-discrimination law, or what universities. I mean, there are things to add every year. This is something that really is consistently moving in a particular direction. And so, it's Connecticut needs to move there as well.
And I would say is I think we within the community can affect change. If we're working in companies and we're fortunate enough to have those positions, to work with the HR departments. And I'll just give the example at the Hartford. When I joined the Hartford, there was no protections for transgender people.
Right.
And and in the beginning it was a tough transition there. But finally they really recognized I was a valuable employee, and what can they do to keep me there? And one of the things I said is we need to sort of change your policies. And it took 3 years of diligent work, but I very much advocated within the company, and I found advocates to work with me. And there's also employee resource groups, LGBT resource groups, and we worked, and we actually within 3 to 4 years had the Hartford change its policies to include gender identity expression. So, we don't have to just singly look at the legislative. We really, what's beautiful, federal legislation is always tough, but we can affect change locally.
Right. Yeah.
We can do it municipally. We can do it in the companies we work with.
And in a way, it is sort of a building process. When you go to the federal level and you say,
Exactly.
we've affected this change locally. The people of Connecticut have spoken. This equal treatment is valuable. What are you going to do for us now at the federal level? What can we press there? But I do find it kind of ironic. I'm a contractor for a local company, working at a local company, and our customer actually includes gender identity or expression in their policies, but my own company doesn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So our customer protects me on their site better than my own company does.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you ladies go. I want to wish you a happy 4th of July.
Oh, thank you.
And let freedom ring and reign, and you guys rock.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much, Tambria. And we miss you. We'd like to see you sometime.
Well, we'll have to hook up at G's. I'm just up the street.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll be there later tonight.
Okay.
But we'll definitely get together.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Tambria Moore, who is a dear friend, and also our audience knows, I'm sure, she is co-host of Street Talk, and has been very good to us. So,
Yeah.
so thanks, Tambria. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we would like to testify this year,
Excellent.
and we're not afraid to have our faces out there, but we'll come in paper bags if you want.
If you'd prefer.
Well, we don't prefer, but I think it does make a message.
It does. It's a
Yeah.
good point.
Because legislators say, well, where are the people who are being discriminated from? And that takes a lot, because to me, we've already been victimized once by losing our jobs, by being harassed, by being beat up. And we have to end up re-victimizing ourselves in many respects by having to present the stories.
Yeah.
And it's true, if you're pushing on domestic violence, sexual assault, it's the same thing. The stories are very powerful, but also to tell our stories is very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. It's something that that sort of tendency to want to hide. We've all sort of been there, and at that point in our transitions where we had to make that decision, and certainly, for our group, we pretty much all decided, no, we're not going to hide. We're going to be out there, obviously.
Yeah.
But there is a real. I understand that sort of feeling to just sort of disappear, that wanting to do that.
Well, and what was it your friend had told you about the targets?
Oh, a friend of mine from Montreal, who said very eloquently that those who have transitioned before us, those that were out there and with targets on their backs, have made the targets on our backs that much smaller.
Yes, no, it's
And
exactly
we
true.
sort of owe a debt of gratitude to that generation that came before us.
And I think that's part of the point, as you said, of living out,
Exactly.
of not hiding. Is
It is.
Here we are.
to chip away at the stigma and try and help.
And you know, every year I'm sorry. Did I,
No,
sorry. I was going to say.